Today, your lesson of the day is going to be about mental agility. So if you're not sure what that term is all about, it's being about versatile trader. So you ever wondered why LeBron is like the second greatest player of all time, or what made Michael Jordan great, what makes some of the biggest stars that you've seen on stage? What's fantastic about them is a good actor is good in every single kind of role. LeBron can beat you with a step back three, he can take it to the dish, he can pass, he can play defense, able to do many things because you don't know what the game is going to throw at you. So the best are always able to roll with whatever situation it would be. If you're a UFC person, you've got to be able to handle multiple styles. It's all well and good to be good at grappling, but if you got to stand toe-to-toe against somebody, you can find yourself in trouble if you don't have that versatility. What it means for trading is there is nothing wrong with having a good idea. Good ideas, good levels, good setups, and all that good stuff. But if you don't have the ability to get away from them when the market's telling you something else, then you are limiting yourself. You could do really well at one thing in trading. There's nothing wrong with that. But there are days where the ability to switch it up, the ability to flip your perception, the ability to look for a different style of entry than maybe what you're accustomed to is going to save you or make you some money. So, a lot of times we start with an idea of how things are going to go, and you want to have that bias, but some suggestions for how you can get away from that and maybe take advantage of being a little bit more mentally agile. So I'm going to start off here. I mean, you can see Mars down 4.5%. Anyone at the time of taping and looking at this, let's be real. Bitcoin had a big pullback. It got to like 63,000. You were gapping down on Mars when I sat down in the pre-market, and you were down about $1.60 or so, and you were essentially just looking for fade trades. Now, obviously, what ended up happening was a failed breakout at the open. I'm looking for opportunity to short. As you can see by the line I drew here, I was looking for a short to pop into 19 even. So that's very, very specific. Like I thought if we retested higher, you get from here into this range, and that's where I wanted to be shorting into. I've seen rip face moves and like that, and that was my anticipation of what could happen. It starts going at the open. It's like, okay, we're starting to get in that range. Just before it enters the area that I want to get into the short, it curls and flushes. So this is the first step of being mentally agile. If you're looking for a short, and I like that setup getting into this 19 area, and it doesn't get there, well, I can sit on my hands and twiddle my thumbs if I want to. There's nothing wrong with that. Let that perfect setup happen. I can look for another trade in another stock, which obviously I did at this time because we trade multiple stocks here on our live show. Or I can also look for something different in the same stock, which would be if it's going to be a continuation flush off that area. Well, if it gets back underneath that support, I can set up a different trade. Instead of the pop and drop, I can look at a new level like the bottom break and set up a trade off of that level. So allow it to break the pre-market low. Okay, show me the breakdown. Well, I didn't want to take the breakdown because I wanted some confirmation of that trade. Very different setup. Instead of shorting into it, I'm waiting for confirmation that we're getting a different setup. There's your breakdown. The retest, trying to go back into VWAP and that pre-market low, shorted off of that for one nice push. It got 10% down SSR. That's why we took it out there. I held some for the dream and got out break even. I tried a VWAP short after that and gave it up when it broke out VWAP. So this is a case where I had a very specific setup in mind, in a direction, and it almost went perfectly. Like it looked like it was going to give me everything I wanted, and then suddenly I missed the opportunity for the big curl because it didn't quite push high enough. All you can do is move on to the next trade. And the other part of mental agility, sometimes, and I'll be the first to admit this, I mean, look at exactly where I got out. The very first thing, you can celebrate all you want your winning trades, but whenever I do this, the first question I ask myself, was there a reasonable reason? Is there a reasonable reason? Is there a good reason why I should have been looking for a reversal here at that price? I mean, the answer in complete hindsight is yes. Went 10% down SSR into higher lows. And what also happened is you've got IBIT, Bitcoin giving you some confluence by giving a consolidation and a breakout. So you actually had that breakout happening. And that's just a quick analysis. Was there a reason that I could have been even more flexible and gone from the short into the long? I would answer yes. So it's not just about what you did do on the stock. Anybody can rest on their laurels. Did I make money on Mara today? Answer yes. Okay, I had a good day. That's not how, you don't get better by looking at it that way. So the first thing was found my way into a different short. The second part is I have to ask myself, was there another short back into this level that I could have just been in a bit earlier? I think the answer could have been yes to that. And then we could have had the breakout long. So it could have been 3 times as good of a day if we take those trades. Or it could have been nothing. That's the other thing. We could have absolutely missed the boat on that trade. So when talking about mental flexibility, sometimes you don't get exactly what you want, but you've got to be able to find something else, flip that script, and work into another trade. And I'll give you an example of not being mentally agile. And this was on NVIDIA. All morning long on the morning show, you would have heard me say, and I'll go to the 15-minute chart so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. I just kept yelling out 850, 850, 850 NVIDIA, and I was looking for a flat bottom break. Now, all of my best trades in the last week and a half have been NVIDIA breakouts. So NVIDIA shows a big level, and I take a break of that level, like all of them. So obviously, in a situation like this, I'm thinking, well, just take the next breakout, which in this case is a breakdown, and leave it at that. If we get a break of the high of the day, great. We actually haven't got one yet. But it came down to 850, and every time it just tagged it, bounced, tagged it, bounced, tagged it, bounced. This is a case of not being mentally agile. You can have a really good idea in terms of the key price level, because when you trade long enough and you do technical analysis and you see these levels when you zoom out, you're going to be able to find them. There's no question about that. That's what you do when you find these patterns. But sometimes you got to be willing to change your bias into the other direction for the trade that's in front of you. And it's not so much should I have been long the first time off of 850, but when it starts presenting things like, hey, there's your high or low the first time at 853, and then suddenly that's a support level. Okay, well, if this is a big support level and it's giving you a higher low, that's worth a scalp trade. I'm not willing to, I like to go one direction on big break trades. I don't want to be messing around going long in front of a monster level when I want that break. I try to keep it simple, but it gives you a higher low. I should have had that trade. But the better example of mental agility, this doesn't seem like much. When I took an 870 break on NVIDIA, it goes upside, it curls into here. Instead of going long at 850, I'm now staring a breakout set up at 870 even. And at the end of the day, you can anchor yourself to, I could have been long at 850. How in the heck am I going to take an 870 breakout? That's just stupid, Neil. Or you just take the trade out in front of you. So I was still into that 870 trade because it's set up. Forget about the fact that you missed there, that you missed there, that you missed there, that you missed there, and just take what's in front of you. And even better, I was able to get $1.50 in the first part of this trade. Now, I've taken probably 7 or 8 breakouts on NVIDIA to the upside in the last week and a half that set up similar to this. This one was noticeably different. And if you rewind the tape, I would have yelled it out and said, this is not as strong as the other breaks. And I said that pretty loud. It's not moving the way it should, and I immediately got out break even. Now, I took a third out for profit, but the other 2/3 I took a hit on for a slightly down and more flat trade. That was the point of the stock turnaround. So mental agility isn't just about saying, suck it up, buttercup, you don't get the fills you want, find the next trade. But it can also be, well, this trade's worked 7 times out of 7. I'm going to ignore what I see on the tape because it's just going to work because I want it to. In that case, it's still the best setup I had, but when it didn't show me confirmation on the tape and I could see it, I accepted it and I got away from it. So sometimes what has been your best idea or your best trades can be dangerous for you. If something has made you the most money or giving you the best profitability, you're very likely to be confident in that trade. But what you don't want to happen is have that confidence in the trade get in the way of what you know about the market mechanics when you're reading the tape, the levels that you have set. If I love a trade so much, do I have to fight it past my rules? Do I have to ignore what I'm seeing in the tape? Do I have to ignore what the market... If I have to do all of those things, then maybe it's not as good as I think it is. And that's a case of being willing to take a trade that was away from the original plan, but also being willing to get rid of it because I saw something which was screaming at me that it was not as strong as possible. So mental agility can take many forms in trading. I think the first and most important one is the market's not always going to go exactly to your plan. You can like a direction for a stock. If you miss your A+ setup, Have the agility to find something else that sets up within your toolbox and possibly in that same direction. If you so happen to miss out on a monster trade, you've got to be able to get rid of that FOMO and look for that next opportunity. If you have a key level that works out for you, that looks fantastic, don't get married to the notion you can only go one direction off that level. If the market's telling you something else and you've identified a good level, maybe you can use it as support instead of a break. Maybe you can use it as resistance or whatever it might be. In this particular case, NVIDIA showed me opportunities even though I wanted that short. So be mentally agile. It's great to have a plan, but the market doesn't care what your plan is. And if you're not mentally agile, it's going to leave you behind. So that's your lesson of the day. That's the real deal. Try to be that versatile player. Be a little bit like LeBron or Michael on the court. Thank you very much.